Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 7 to my Sorcerer playthrough. Last video I took on Seath and also Big Hat Logan. I was able to pick up all of his spells and armor and all that. You saw that I upgraded his part of his armor. I don't think I'll actually use it. I was thinking I might, but then I realized it's a little bit heavy. But if I go into New Game Plus, I probably would end up using it. You notice I turned human. Really no reason for it other than the fact that I had an extra humanity laying around, and I figured if I didn't use it, it'd go to waste. Plus, my character is a little bit easier on the eyes when she actually has skin on her. I skipped forward a little bit there because I couldn't warp to the Daughter of Chaos bonfire because I never used it after I killed Quelaag. I wanted to be able to warp back to the Blighttown bonfire after I killed Ceaseless Discharge, which meant at some point I had to run back down here. Figured I would save you the pain of watching me run through Blighttown one more time. That was a little shortcut to get down to the bottom here a little faster. I think you can jump off a little bit earlier than that, but with my low health, I didn't want to risk it. So, Demon Ruins, one of my more favorite areas of the game. I'm not actually sure if there's a reason why, I just kind of enjoy it down here. Some people complain that they reuse bosses in some areas of the game. I kind of like that sometimes. It kind of lets you know that your character is advanced. So these guys were, especially this guy right here, and these guys were major annoyances early on in the game. They seemed a little bit tough, but now they're just pushover enemies. The other thing about being human is I haven't taken on any NPC phantoms yet, so I knew that if I was human in this area, at least I could take on Kirk. I don't really need anything he's got, but it's just a little added challenge to the game, I guess. You see I switched over to my dagger and hornet ring. Pretty much any time I have a chance to parry somebody in this game, I'm going to take it. One roll, instant parry, and Kirk's out of the picture. And I forgot, but these guys added another soft humanity too. So I guess that kind of comes in handy. I'll basically end up kindling this bonfire, even though it's not normally one I would actually bother kindling. But in a low-level playthrough like this, I never know when I'm going to lose my bloodstain. So anytime I have soft humanity, I'm going to use it. And these guys are incredibly easy when you have magic. Getting payback on these guys for all the times they killed my melee characters. Fighting those guys with a really short-range melee weapon like a dagger or a rapier, pain in the ass. I've been eaten a few times in my early playthroughs, so it feels good to get revenge once in a while. So anyway, kindled the bonfire, and now it's time to make my way down. As I was saying before, though, I really like this area. Not just because you see some of the old bosses that used to be tough, but also it's just there's a lot of bosses down here in general. Most of the other lords, in fact I think all of them, you only have the one main boss. This area actually has two bosses prior to the Bed of Chaos, so it's actually a pretty good sized area. You notice I got into hyper mode purposely here, partly because I want to take these guys out with as little effort as possible, but also because it helps conserve ammo. Instead of taking 2 or 3 hits to kill everything, I can do it in 1 or 2. Also, I noticed while I was down here, almost any of these fire enemies seem really weak to magic. Someone mentioned that in the comments section of, I think, the first or second video, and I never really paid attention to it before, but it seems to be true. Another one of these worm guys. I don't even know what they're called. Burrowing worms or something like that. All I know is I don't get too close to them. I've ended up in their stomach a few times. Plus, I don't want to get all my armor ruined to their acid spit. And you can tell these guys are really weak now. Not that he was ever strong, but they're extremely weak at this level of the game. So obviously I'm making it over here to pick up my large fire ember. Normally when I run through here, it's kind of a one-way trip. I almost always run back to the back there, open up the chest, grab the ember, and just homeward bone out back to the bonfire. But this time, figured I'd take these guys out since it was so easy. As I said, don't mind getting a little bit of revenge. You notice I'm switching up to my heavy soul arrow against these guys. Not so much because it does more damage, just because it saves me extra great soul arrows for taking on Demon Firesage. Demon Firesage is way too quick for me to risk using a slow spell like I did on Seath, so I'm trying to conserve my great soul arrows, which are my faster ones. So I probably could have saved some time if I still did Homer Bone after taking these guys out. It probably would have just been as quick as a run, and I would have had full ammo again. But I figured I'd take a shot. I'm already in hyper mode. I think I have enough ammo left to take on the Fire Sage, so I went ahead and gave it a whirl. No reason not to. I didn't notice before, but this guy left me a little present. Demon's Great Axe, which I'll never use. I tend to get drops in the game a lot when I don't need the item, and as soon as I'm looking for it, it just won't drop for me. So I think we all know what a pain in the ass this guy can be. My usual tactic for fighting the Demon Firesage is stay behind him and just melee the hell out of him as much as you can, and just don't let him get in front of you. Or I should say, don't let him face you, I guess. But with this character, it really wasn't the best option. Just like Seath, fighting at range just seems to be a better tactic. As you can see, I'm doing a pretty good amount of damage, even with my simple Great Soul Arrow. So it's just a matter of keeping away from him. And that attack right there, and the other one that's kind of similar to that, those things track really, really well. In fact, those are a couple of ones that you have to dodge extremely late, or else he's going to hit you with them. Pretty good fancy footwork, if I say it myself. And then, of course, yeah, I died in a simple hit. But that's the one I was talking about. That guy, it's really difficult to dodge if you're at maximum range. You have to dodge extremely late, and it's pretty much that same attack right there. So what I figured out pretty quickly was that it's easier if you get a little bit closer to him before you dodge. So pretty much anytime he jumps at me like that, you're going to see me move forward first and then roll. It took me, I think, 3 or 4 times to get it just right before I got to the one where I beat him. There's another one of those where I had to dodge. That's why I don't have a bloodstain in there. I don't even know where the bloodstain went. I think I lost it at the door or something. But anyway, I'm just trying to stay away from this guy. He's not so bad if you stay away from him. You actually have a lot of room in this chamber compared to fighting the stray demon. The only difference being there's trees and other crap in the way that make it a little bit difficult to dodge. Sometimes you get stuck on a tree, or he gets lodged up next to it and you can't get behind him. But if you kind of stay in the middle, it's not too bad. So the tactic, if you're noticing, is I'm trying to stay behind him until he gives me a clear path to jump away from him, or I should say get away from him. If you get too close, he'll often jump backwards away from you, or when he does his little sit-down trick, it gives you time to get away. It's not safe to try to get away from him when he's facing you, because he'll do that move right there. Here he goes again. Yeah, once you get the timing down, it's not so bad, but I think it definitely does help to roll close to him first. And that last one was a little bit risky, but I knew if I got him in time, I would kill him. So Demon Firesage down. He was the one of the ones I was really dreading, but he ended up not being as bad as I thought he'd be. And I'm sure some of you are wondering why I'm not going up to the shortcut. It's because I don't plan on coming down here ever again. This is another one of my one-way trips. Once I'm done here, I don't ever plan on coming back. While I'm down here, hopefully I'll get enough red titanite chunks to make my dagger a plus 10 fire. In fact, I'll make sure of it. I'll have to farm if I need to. But as long as I get enough, I won't have to ever come back down here, so the shortcut's pointless. And now my second favorite boss, the damn Centipede Demon. This one I really wasn't sure how I was going to go. This guy was tough enough on my naked playthrough, so doing it with a really, really low vitality character, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. As you can tell, this is the safest place to fight him, especially if you want to fight him at range, which is my plan. I took 2 hits in the fire and basically knocked myself into hyper mode, which is convenient. You'll see I kind of have a tactic worked out for this guy, and it seemed to work out pretty well. Notice I've switched to my heavy soul arrow, and I engage him when he's about that far away. Because when he's that far away, he does that attack, which gives me just enough time to fire off a heavy soul arrow. But then he takes a couple steps forward, and then he starts doing his other attacks. And I've switched to my great soul arrow. And that was a really, really close one. So what was that? As you can see, I kind of wiped the floor with this guy. I was actually pretty proud of myself, even though I got a couple lucky dodges in there. I took him out really quickly. I really thought it was going to take me a few times with this guy, so I was pretty happy I knocked it out in the first try. And now off to the favorite place for almost every player, Lost Izalith. I don't think I hate it as much as everyone else hates it, but it is not the funnest area to be in. Just running through the lava burns my eyes. Other than that, though, the other area isn't so bad. It's just so bright. It just makes my screen so washed out. I can't stand that first part. But once you actually get into the ruins area, then it's not so bad. So I do have to say, the first time I played the game, I played offline for my first playthrough. I didn't have an Xbox Live Gold account at the time, and I wasn't sure if I even wanted to get one. So I played pre-patch, and I remember this area being a little bit different. The damn dinosaur legs were a lot more aggressive. I don't know if there were more than there were now, but they definitely had a wider aggro range. So running through here after the patch is pretty much cakewalk. It's really easy not to have to worry about aggroing any of them if you run the correct path. But I remember the first time it definitely was a pain in the ass. That's one of the few things in the patches that, even though it made it easier, I kind of agreed with. And thankfully I have my Dingy robe on, which actually has pretty good fire resistant. When I ran through here naked, it really went through my health fast, even with the charred ring on. Picked up the Soul of a Great Hero. I don't think I'll ever need it on this playthrough, but again, if I go New Game Plus and I decide to level up a little bit, I have a bunch of souls in the bank. So funny part about this bonfire is I didn't even know it existed on my first playthrough. I had no idea that there was a hidden wall here. So while I was fighting the Bed of Chaos on my first playthrough, I had to run back from the original bonfire every single time. And as you can imagine, it was a little bit frustrating. But once I figured this one out, it made it a hell of a lot easier. It's not very long of a boss run, and you can run by every enemy pretty successfully without too much danger. Going to the red tearstone ring again. I've never used that ring actually before this playthrough. I've played around with it before, but it always seemed too risky to do. But when you have such low vitality, you're already going to die in a few hits, so it really doesn't matter too much. I should have blocked that. I didn't realize it was going to take quite that much health, but it worked nonetheless. Anyway, the ring's pretty addicting. I'm thinking on whatever my next playthrough is, even if it's a normal higher level playthrough, I'm going to give the Tier 7 ring a shot. I mean, it really does let you take out some enemies really, really quickly. It just relies on you being good at dodging and not getting hit. But after all these low-level playthroughs, I'm getting pretty damn good at it. You notice I did take the time to stop and kill this guy, because I was hoping for a Titanite chunk. And thankfully he did leave me one. So the Pyromancer up here, I almost always take out with a quick roll backstab. But this time, I didn't really want to risk it. If I would have went up there with my dagger, I would have been able to take her out. But I'm just trying to play a little bit more conservatively. If she would have done something like the Chaos Fire Whip or Combustion at the wrong time as I was running up to her, it definitely would have killed me. So now the fun part. This is the part where I realized I should have probably gotten the Rusted Iron Ring when I went back to the Undead Asylum. At the time, I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't think I'd need it because I forgot I had to come down here. But since I didn't get it, I'm going to have to do the same thing I did in Blighttown and slug through the swamp pretty slowly. So part of the reason I'm taking these guys out, obviously, is because I'm hoping for some chunks. And also because I don't want to risk dying trying to run through them to get to the red Titanite slab. I figured out really quickly I can take these guys out safely from above, which is definitely the easier path. A quick tip, do not try to use the plunging attack on these guys. I found out the hard way that it doesn't work. I mean, in retrospect, it probably should have been extremely obvious to me that it wasn't a good idea, but I went ahead and tried it anyway, and instantly was eaten alive. It was worth it though, it was pretty funny, but I definitely haven't tried it since. So anyway, getting lucky, getting down here, getting a few chunks. Well, that one wasn't guaranteed, but the other guy dropped one too. I don't think I'll need the green shards too much anymore. I think I have plenty. There's another chunk. And I almost forgot about that guy. Thankfully I turned around just in time. But as I was saying, it would have been nice to have the Rusted Iron Ring here. But I'll have to use my Blighttown trick and switch my one-handed, two-handed weapon up here. It does help, but the Rusted Iron Ring would have been nicer, for sure. So, I definitely went out of my way to get this slab because I think my weapon of choice for the end game is going to be my +10 fire dagger. I went ahead and went with a fire instead of lightning because I knew that I knew that, well, obviously Gwen is weak to fire. But also Four Kings. That's what I was getting for. I think Four Kings, I'm sure he's weak to lightning too, but I know for a fact he's weak to fire. So in the end, instead of trying to make a bunch of different weapons, I figured I'd stick with one. And +10 fire seemed to be the logical choice. I tend to go +5 chaos on a normal playthrough because I always have enough humanity when I'm doing my PvP. But in a playthrough like this, I didn't want to burn through a bunch of humanity only to die and not be able to get back to my bloodstain. One more chunk. So I got all I needed out of here. It's time to get out of this hellhole. only to get into another hellhole with the Bed of Chaos. I don't know if I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I know a lot of people hate that boss. Only because it's not so much difficult as it is annoying. Seems to be some luck involved, depending on the way the game decides it wants to attack you. There is a pattern to the movement, but sometimes it does seem to attack a little bit randomly. So I'm definitely not looking forward to that. But I wanted to come down here and get my fire chunks and slabs, because my next trip is going to be down to Nito's area, so I didn't want to have to backtrack, so it just made sense to get everything I needed before I went there to meet Vamos and make my dagger. These guys were a little surprised coming back up. I didn't think they'd actually be waiting for me. Thankfully they didn't kill me after all that work. So I decided before going to the boss, I'd take out this last guy down here. I think they're called Chaos Eaters. I was hoping for one more chunk. You can see some awesome targeting by yours truly there. But he was really close to the boss fog. I figured I'd take him out. And I definitely don't need this spell, but I figured I was close enough to the chest, I might as well grab it. So anyway, this level's almost done. It's time to take on the boss. I wish I could tell you guys that I just made it down there and took out the Bed of Chaos in one fell swoop, but unfortunately that's not the case. It wasn't one of my more smooth Bed of Chaos kills. It took a few tries to get it right, but it's always something I expect, so I wasn't surprised by it. The first one on the right is always easy to get. I don't think I've ever died doing that one, but the one on the left is always a pain. And the one in the middle isn't much better. So I pop a green blossom here, only because I've learned my lesson a few times that you don't want to run out of endurance in the middle of breaking through the branches, because if you get stuck, he still can get you sometimes inside of there. You're going to notice I do the little trick here where I quit the game. If you don't know what that does, basically, if you quit the game right after killing one of those things and restart, you start outside the boss fog. So you get a free shot at coming back down here instead of having to run all the way across through the holes. So I guess in a way it's sort of a cheat. This is the one boss in the game where I don't feel guilty doing it. So you notice I picked up my bloodstain there. It's because right after I made it across the gap the first time, I got bitch slapped. I instantly killed. So this time I make it across, and he almost bitch slapped me again, but somehow I managed to dodge that. And you're going to notice I'm going to do the same trick. What I didn't put on camera was, after I did the quit and started back at the fog, I actually ran backwards and killed the Chaos Eaters a couple times. I picked up a couple more chunks. I only needed 9, so I made sure I got those before I finished out this area. And you notice I had a bloodstain back in the game. That time I didn't even barely make it off the ramp and got killed by that explosion. This time I actually made it through pretty easily. In fact, that was one of the easier times I've been through it. I think I just got lucky with my timing. But anyway, Bed of Chaos is down. Wrapping up this video. Next time I'm going to head down the catacombs and Tomb of Giants to take on Nito. Not sure how that's going to go, but I guess we'll find out. So until then.